3 Chilling Tales of Terror. Discover the Sinister Secrets of Haunted Nights Alone, Volume 2. In the eerie stillness of Maplewood, Pennsylvania, Sarah parked her car in front of her small house, glancing at the flickering street lamp and feeling shivers creep down her spine. The shadows felt thicker tonight, wrapping around her heart like a vice. Each late-night return from the diner was a battle against mounting dread, and the atmosphere felt heavy with an unshakable terror, especially after the recent vanishings. Despite the neon glow of the diner kitchen in her dreams, here in her driveway, darkness reigned, and echoes of worry whispered just out of reach. As she stepped inside, the house was a museum of half-eaten lunches and forgotten toys, haunted by the absence of laughter and chaos. Emma and Jake were always tucked in by now, but dread eclipsed her thoughts. Each sound seemed magnified, looming large in the silence. She locked the door quickly, the rusted bolts screaming as she slid it shut. Silence hung, pregnant with unease. Something about the muffled night seemed to watch her, lurking just beyond the layers of normalcy. Steeling herself for another night of restless sleep, Sarah caught movement outside. Through the window, Mr. Hargrove shuffled around his lawn, collecting random objects under the dim, flickering glow. His frantic gestures sliced through the suffocating silence, sending a chill racing down her spine. What was he doing out here, night after night, gathering odds and ends as if preparing for something unholy? Straining to hear, Sarah caught snippets of Hargrove's muttering. Phrases like, "the offerings," and "old spirits," snaked their way into her mind, curling around her sanity. Each whispered word drew her deeper into a web of anxiety. Could it be that the rumors were true? That her sleepy suburb was hiding its own nightmares beneath a veneer of suburban bliss? Before she could linger on the thought, Jake woke in the next room, screaming. Sarah's heart raced as she rushed in, breathless, finding her son shaking, crying for her, while the shadows twisted grotesquely in the corners. "Mommy, the shadows are coming," he cried, eyes wide with terror. Fear gripped her. It was never just a nightmare anymore. It felt real. Days blurred into each other. Emma found strange markings on their doorstep, symbols that seemed to pulse with an ancient energy. With each passing day, her resolve crumbled. The authorities shrugged off her concerns, brushing her fears aside with patronizing smiles. Alone, Sarah wrestled with her own spiraling mind. Was it merely fatigue, or was there true horror lurking just beneath her front porch? Determined yet trembling, she resolved to confront Mr. Hargrove, pushed by the weight of all the town's shadows. Her heart pounded in protest as she approached his door, the air thickening around her like a noose. No honor bound her now, just the fierce need to protect her children. As she stepped inside, a chill swept through her bones. Each breath became laborious, constricted by an unrelenting fear. The moment she locked eyes with Hargrove, the truth spilled forth, a tale so twisted it sent her heart racing. The neighborhood's cheer hid glimmers of a dear price, and she felt thick shadows pull her toward unthinkable darkness. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just as Hargrove opened his mouth to reveal the sinister truths woven into the town's past, a chilling presence enveloped Sarah, spinning the air thick around her. Her gaze shifted to the shadows behind her, and the horror solidified in her gut. Were they really safe? Or was Maplewood just a facade, hiding a deeper darkness? Did anyone truly escape the town's curse? The night pressed in, closing like jaws around them, setting the stage for the unthinkable to unfold. Sarah's heart thumped wildly as the atmosphere crackled with tension. Hargrove's lips moved, but the words faded into a muffled hum, drowned by a sharp rustling that shook the air in the room. Something was coming, something dark, something waiting to pounce. "They belong to the darkness," Hargrove finally uttered, his voice raspy and strained. His eyes darted towards the window, the reflection of the moon casting an eerie glow around them. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting in ways they shouldn't. "Your children," he hissed suddenly, sending a jolt through her. "They are not safe. You have to leave. This town, it demands a price." "What do you mean? What price?" Desperation clawed at her throat. She didn't need answers, but the instinct to protect her children overridden her fear.
Hargrove stepped back, his hands trembling as he pointed to the door. "Run! The offering is due tonight. The ritual must be completed." The air thickened with a rancid smell, a pungent warning that hung heavily over their heads. She looked back. Fear and confusion swirled in her mind. Was it too late? Had she walked into a trap, into some sort of madness alongside this old man? Each beat of her heart drummed loudly, echoing off the walls, harmonizing with a growing dread. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the other room. Emma, panic ignited within her. Without thinking, she pushed past Hargrove and dashed into the hall. The shadows roared around her, their oppressive weight a constant reminder of the sinister reality she was entangled in. "Emma," she yelled, her voice ragged as she reached the doorway of the kids' room.
Breathless, she turned the doorknob, fearing what she might see. The sight stopped her cold. The room was filled with dark, swirling shapes, blurring together like a living entity gone mad. In the center stood Emma, eyes wide, staring blankly at the wall. It drooped with dark veils that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. As Sarah reached for her daughter, the room chilled to frost. A whisper, cold and hissing, slid through the air. "They will pay what they owe." The shadows shifted, slithering closer like hungry serpents. "Get away from her!" Sarah screamed, but she felt powerless, like she was moving through mud. Just then, Hargrove burst in behind her, but he wasn't the same. His face was twisted with fear, specters of regret and desperation etched deep into his features. "We need to go!" he tried to shout, but the shadows encircled him, pulling him into their depths. "No!" Sarah shouted, fighting the compulsion to flee. She stepped further into the room, focused solely on Emma. "Sweetheart, please, come with me! We have to leave!" The blackness writhed, coiling around her, as if the very walls themselves conspired against her. In her peripheral vision, she saw Hargrove grapple with the shadows, his screams lost in the cacophony. Suddenly, the swirling mass lunged toward her, a wave of despair crashing over her. The oppressive darkness sought a grip on her heart, and she staggered back, her resolve feeble. Emma's voice broke through, soft yet unwavering. "Mommy, I'm scared." In that instant, the world around them shattered, fragments of reality splintering as the shadows formed grotesque faces, shrieking ancient curses. Would she sacrifice everything she was for a chance to save her children? Sarah lunged forward, grabbing Emma's trembling hand. Together, they turned to face the oncoming tide. The house felt alive, as though it were breathing, growing darker with each heartbeat. The dread of a forgotten promise loomed over them, and an ancient hunger thrummed in the air, ready to devour them whole. Above her, pools of icy darkness writhed, twisting like a malevolent fog. The voice from the doorway was authoritative, cutting through the noise, a lifeline in the tempest of despair. "Who are you?" she managed, her grip tightening around Emma's hand. The fear in her child's eyes was a dagger to her heart. "Just someone who knows what's at stake." The figure stepped forward, silhouetted against the dying light. It was a man, face lined with urgency, eyes fiercely determined. "We don't have much time, Sarah. Trust me." "Trust you?" Her voice cracked, a tremor betraying her boiling panic. Around them, the looming shadows thrummed, sentient and hungry, eager for her doubt to seep into her heart. "Yes, if we don't leave now, we might not get another chance." He waved her toward him, urgency dripping from every word. "It's coming. The offering can't be stopped unless—" "Offering? What are you talking about?" She dared not take her eyes off Emma, who remained frozen, entranced by the darkness that coiled around her small frame. The man took a step closer, his voice sharp as shards of glass. "There's a reason the town was abandoned years ago. Something took the children, something terrible. We need to escape before the ritual is completed. We must keep her safe." Rage rippled through her. "You think I'd just leave my daughter? Hargrove said they're not safe here. You think I can just walk away?" Hargrove's desperate screams echoed in the ether, memories of travel and safety dancing around her like specters. She shifted her focus, assessing the immediate threat. Shapes twisted and contorted, their black forms growing larger, more formidable. Suddenly, from the corner, a long, shrill howl reverberated, inside the walls themselves. The sound gnawed at her sanity, rising with an unbearable crescendo that felt like claws dragging down her spine. Everyone in town had whispered about the forbidden ritual, the darkness that demanded a payment. Was her life worth more than her child's safety? "Please," the man shouted, wrenching her attention back to him. His hands were outstretched, pleading. "We need to go. In a matter of moments, they'll be on us, all of them." The shadows brightened, revealing faces trapped within, mouths pulled back to reveal rows of jagged teeth. They hummed a chaotic tune, a funeral dirge that chilled the air, draping urgency around them like a suffocating cloak. "Mommy!" Emma cried, finally breaking from her trance, her voice quaking. The shadows quivered with delight, slinking closer. A fresh wave of desperation surged through Sarah. Must she decide now, in this moment of terror? Could she really choose between the unknown and what was familiar yet dangerous? "Fine, but if we're doing this, we have to move, now." With one last glance at the rumbling darkness closing in around them, she tightened her grip on Emma's hand and dashed toward the man. He quickly ushered them through the doorway, fleeing the room, the shadows screeching in frustration, trying to reclaim what they believed was theirs. As they rushed down the hallway, the floorboards groaned beneath their feet, mourning the flight of their last hope. Amidst the chaos, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were not simply fleeing, but reliving the town's tragic history. The air crackled with foreboding, as if the very walls were whispering ancient secrets. "Where are we going?" she panted, adrenaline surging as the sound of their hurried steps echoed behind them like a chorus of approaching doom. "Wherever they can't follow," the man replied cryptically. But as they reached the front door, frozen in place by shadows that loomed menacingly ahead, she knew the outside world held just as many dangers. "What now?" Her voice trembled, the night closing in like a vice. "Hold on tight. This is about to get real." And with that, the shadows lunged again. Would this flurry of darkness consume them, or was there a sliver of hope thickening the air? A deafening roar erupted from the shadows as they lunged, and Sarah's heart slammed against her ribs like a drum. The man yanked her back, pulling her into a side room just off the hallway, and they piled in, breathless and trembling. The door slammed shut, sealing them in darkness, muffling the horrors outside. The candlelight flickered dangerously low, casting frantic shadows that twisted on the walls. Emma whimpered, but Sarah kept her hold tight, rubbing her thumb across the back of her daughter's hand, trying to soothe the mounting anxiety. "What now?" she whispered, panic clawing at her throat. The man crouched near the window, his eyes darting like a predator assessing its surroundings. "We'll need to find a way out. They're relentless. They'll check this room soon. They know we're here." "What do you mean by they?" Sarah dared to ask, her voice shaky. "The shadows. They're no ordinary darkness. They're the remnants of what this town lost, and they crave life. They want to keep what they've taken." His face contorted in anguish, briefly reflecting something human, something lost.
Children, they feed on innocence. Sarah's stomach twisted. Could Emma be next? No, you can't take her, Sarah hissed, her mother bear instincts surging. I'm not taking her anywhere. I'm trying to save you both, he replied, urgency layering his voice. From outside, the shadows made a sound like nails scraping across glass, an otherworldly tune that penetrated her mind. Emma's tiny fingers tightened around hers, and Sarah felt like she might shatter. Make it stop, Emma whimpered, her innocent fear tugging mercilessly at Sarah's heart. I'm trying! The man's frustration lashed out, but the shadows pressing against the door demanded attention. We can't let them in here. Suddenly, the front door rattled violently.
Then, silence, the kind that prickled at the skin, the kind that warned of something worse than noise. They're waiting, the man murmured, and the darkness behind a door quivered with unnatural life. What do we do? Just sit here? Sarah's voice rose, the edge of it raw with desperation. Listen, he pressed his ear to the door, the shadows pulsing in time with his quickening heartbeat. They might communicate, plot how to take you. If we wait too long, he turned towards her, his expression sharp yet regretful. We need to create a distraction. I'll draw them away. No, you can't, Sarah protested, but she knew it was her only option, their only chance. With no more words, he moved toward the back of the room, lifting a dusty old lantern from the shelf. It was filled with some kind of strange liquid that glowed an eerie green. What is that? She asked, incredulous. An offering of my own, he said, eyes narrowing. They can smell it. The shadows will be drawn to it. Once they're distracted, we run. Run where? The idea terrified her, but she forced the words out. Just away from here. Don't look back. He struck a match, lighting the lantern, and a thick cloud of green smoke swirled around him, devouring the light. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the shimmering glow. Now, go! As the shadows swarmed the lantern, Sarah felt a feral instinct take hold. She gripped Emma's hand and bolted through the back door, with a boil of adrenaline transforming fear into steely resolve. The night air was a sharp bite, and she was met with an eerily familiar street, where the mist turned into a deeper black. But as they stepped out, everything shifted. The ground trembled beneath them, and the fog curled around their ankles like a living thing. Sarah looked back to see the man consumed by the shadows, his screams swallowed whole by the night. Mommy! Emma's voice pierced through, high and scared. Keep moving, Sarah urged, her heart racing. They rushed down the street, surrounded by a darkness that danced and coiled, eager to claim them as its own. Would the shadows overtake them, or was there a way to escape this haunting nightmare? As they ran, a chilling realization dawned on Sarah. Shadows weren't just lurking, they were watching, and she could feel one sinister presence follow close behind, breathing down their necks, ready for the moment she faltered. The mist thickened as they ran, wrapping around Sarah and Emma like a suffocating blanket. Emma's breaths were frantic, her small frame struggling to keep pace. They dodged past the facades of abandoned houses, their dark windows staring like hollow eyes, each one a reminder of the lives that had been lost here. The air grew heavier, thick with despair, and Sarah's resolve teetered on the edge of panic. Mom, Emma's pulled at her hand, her voice wavering. I know, sweetheart, just hold on tight. With every step, the feeling of being hunted clawed in Sarah's insides. It felt as if the shadows had teeth, gnashing at their heels. She pressed forward, the cold night air numbing her skin, biting deep into her bones. Suddenly, a chilling whisper slipped through the fog, chilling her to the core. Leave the child. Follow the light. What was that? Emma cried, her eyes wide with fright. It's just the wind, Sarah lied, although the doubt slithered into her own heart. The shadows were gaining ground. She could hear them sliding and slinking just out of sight, the very darkness alive. Mommy, what if they get me? We won't let that happen, Sarah snapped, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. She needed to keep Emma focused, to make her believe that escape was possible. There's a light up ahead. We can make it. They sprinted toward the flickering glow that cut through the fog like a beacon of hope, but with each step closer, the futility of it weighed heavier on her. The shadows morphed and danced around them, an eerie ballet of darkness. They were taunting her, whispering promises and threats that twisted her thoughts. Mommy, Emma's hand slipped from her grasp just as they neared the edge of the light. Panic flooded Sarah as she turned, adrenaline surging. Emma! The shadows surged forward, consuming her daughter. Sarah lunged toward the specter that had swallowed Emma whole. She couldn't breathe, an icy grip squeezing her heart. Emma, she shouted, desperation rising. She felt the ground pulsate beneath her feet, rippling like an ominous wave. The shadows laughed, a hissing cacophony echoing in the night.
just as despair began to swallow her whole, she remembered the lantern, the strange ownership it entailed, the offering. The shadows were drawn to it before, but perhaps there was still time. She turned, eyes wild as she sought the vessel of salvation. The glow flickered in the distance again, a dance pushing past the chaos. She dashed toward it, clutching the remnants of hope that kept her feet moving. Shadowy hands grazed her arms, cold, clammy, and desperately hungering. Then she saw it, a dark figure emerging from beneath the beam of light, its arm extended, face hidden in the depths of shadows. "Leave her. She belongs to us." "No," Sarah screamed, fury ignited within her. "I won't give her up." In that moment she felt the power of a mother's rage flood her veins. Fueled with instinct, she reached for the glowing lantern slung over her shoulder and threw it to the ground. Its green smoke spiraled into the air, illuminating every dark corner. "Take this!" The shadows hissed and recoiled, tangled in the smoke as it filled the street. The chill of the air hardened into a scream, battling against the luminescent force. Sarah dashed forward through the swirling mist, pushing against the darkness, calling Emma's name. "Mommy!" Emma's voice was faint, even as her figure emerged from the haze, barely visible. "Stay close!"
The shadow shrieked with rage, pressing against Sarah's back, reaching out with dark clawing tendrils. The light flickered, and in an instant the shadows lunged to reclaim their prize. Would they swallow Emma alive? The darkness shrieked behind her, a deep growl as Sarah plunged forward into the fray, battling the nightmares. As they broke through the fog into the distance, a realization washed over her. The lantern was just a distraction, an offering made. But the shadows had a deeper hunger than she understood, and somewhere far behind, they were still coming. What did they want, and how could she fight against an enemy that thrived in darkness? The light pulsed around them, a fragile barrier against the encroaching dark. Sarah felt the sweat glide down her back, cold and sticky. The shadows writhed and undulated, relentless, whispering her fears back at her, feeding on her desperation. "Mommy, where are we going?" Emma's voice trembled, strained with exhaustion. "Just keep running," Sarah replied, her voice hardening with necessity. They wove between the crumbling remains of homes. The street churned like a vortex of despair that sought to drag them back. Each step stung their feet, grounding them to the nightmare unfolding. But ahead, the flicker of the glow was fading. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat as doubt slithered in. What if the light was only a mirage? What if the shadows were right? "Mom!" Emma's voice broke through her thoughts, vibrant against the backdrop of despair. "What do they want with me?" "I don't know," she snapped, desperate. "Just stay close!" In that instant, a thought struck her like ice through her veins. What if the shadows were after something more than just Emma? What if they wanted her too? A crushing weight settled on her chest. Every decision felt like it would tip the balance of life and death. Just then, a deeper darkness erupted from the street. A piercing shriek echoed, bone-chilling and primal. Out of the smoke, an enormous figure emerged, its shape twisted and distorted, writhing like a black flame. Sarah's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a caged animal. "Emma!" she screamed as the figure surged toward them with terrifying speed. "Run!" Emma cried, her eyes wide with terror. They bolted off the main road, stumbling into the narrow alleyways between ghostly buildings, but the shadows slinked along every surface, entwining in their path. Sarah ducked and weaved, dragging her daughter behind her. The buildings leaned in, the walls closing around them as if trying to crush them in. "Over there!" Emma gasped, pointing toward a glimmering doorframe at the end of the alley, a sliver of light, barely enough to make out. Without hesitation, they sprinted toward it, but the shadows erupted, slashing out at them with icy fingers, grazing Sarah's arm, leaving a burning trail behind. She let out a yelp as she felt the deep, aching chill seep into her skin. "Keep going!" she shouted, forcing her legs to move faster. The doorframe loomed, but as they neared, an anguished wail rose from within, echoing with menacing familiarity. "Sarah!" the voice lowered, soft and tainted with dread. It was her own, a twisted reflection in the night, her name mixed with the sinister whispers of the shadows surrounding them. "Mommy, it sounds like you," Emma whimpered, her small hand shaking as she clutched Sarah's arm tight. "No, it's a trick." In that moment, the walls seemed to ripple, specters darting behind her. Shadows gurgled with laughter, drying the warmth from the air. "Follow the light," the voice lured again, coiling around them like a serpent. In a surge of frantic energy, Sarah barreled forward, adrenaline pulsing. She reached the door, her hand grasping the handle. It felt hot to the touch, electric. They stumbled inside, and the door slammed behind them, thundering with finality.
The sudden silence blanketed them, absorbing their frantic breaths. But then, the shadows crept under the door, pushing in like a tide. The voices twisted into a cacophony, begging for release, threatening to pull them back. Emma looked up at Sarah, her face pale, eyes glistening with tears. "What do we do now?" A chill crept up Sarah's spine as she scanned the room. The shadows began to form, a shape materializing, the dark figure standing in the center, waiting, watching. "Welcome," it hissed. "You've both come to play." Sarah's heart raced, leaving her breathless. No escape lay in sight. They had walked into a trap, and they were trapped in an eternal nightmare. As the shadows coiled tighter around them, another chilling notion gripped her. What if there was no way out? And still, the shadow whispered, "You'll learn. Everyone belongs." But would they become part of the darkness? Or could Sarah fight back against the very thing that wished to consume them? The air thickened, pregnant with an unsettling silence that enveloped them completely. Sarah could hardly breathe, the fear coiling tighter within her, wrapping around her heart like a vice. The figure before them moved slowly, grotesquely, each step a mockery of life. Its form was a patchwork of shadows, limbs twisting unnaturally, stretching and retracting as if their bones bent to a will of their own. "Mommy, I'm scared," Emma whimpered, her voice trembling, a fragile thread in the dark. "Just stay close," Sarah choked out, her eyes flickering to the door, but it felt like a prison now, solid and immovable. The mercy of light had vanished, and all that surrounded them was a pit of darkness, pulsing like a living creature. "Why do you run?" the shadow groaned, its voice slithering through the air like a serpent in the grass. Sarah's stomach churned, and she gritted her teeth. "What do you want?" A flicker of red passed through the shadow's form, an eerie mockery of desire. "I want what all want, to feel alive. The light lies, it's a ruse."
"Embrace the darkness, and you shall know true existence." The words echoed in her mind, each syllable worming its way under her skin, urging her to accept the inevitable. She squeezed Emma's hand, grounding herself in the truth. This thing wanted to twist them into something unrecognizable, to corrupt the bond they shared. "No!" she shouted defiantly, her pulse a furious drum in her ears. "We won't become what you want!" The shadows hissed, retreating momentarily, swirling around them like a tempest. They felt colder then, the air thickening with despair as their cries filled the space, frantic, shattered whispers of countless others who had succumbed. "Foolish mother," the shadow sneered, its eyes glinting like mirrors reflecting torment. "You think you can resist? They've all tried. Feel their pain." And suddenly she was there, back in the glowing doorway, this time filled with faces twisted in horror, all pleading for release. Each gaze met hers, eyes wide and begging, mouths open and silent screams. Their suffering clawed at Sarah's heart, blood pounding in her ears with each frantic thump. "Emma," Sarah gasped, terror threading through her voice. "We have to—" Before she could finish, Emma stepped forward, glancing back at the shadow with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What if it tells us how to go home?" she asked, her innocence shimmering in stark contrast to the darkness. "No," Sarah barked, stepping between her daughter and the abyss. "But, Mommy—" "I said no!" The roar tore from her throat, raw and primal. Shadows coiled closer, angry and vengeful, whispering darkly. "You have to trust me." The figure folded its limbs, a smirk twisting in the darkness. "You're not their savior. You can't protect her forever." With that, it lunged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching toward Emma. Sarah's instincts kicked in. She hurled herself forward, arms outstretched, and caught her daughter just in time. "Hold on to me," she cried, desperation fueling her as they tumbled to the ground. But the air was thick and suffocating. The darkness closed in faster, wrapping around them, threatening to pull them apart. "Mommy!" Emma wailed, panic clawing at her voice.
Fight the urge, Emma, Sarah shouted, clenching her daughter's hand tighter, their spirits intertwined like strands of light in the shadow. We have to fight. The shadow recoiled, furious, as the bond between them blazed. You cannot win, it screeched, its form flickering, tangled in rage and fear. Watch us, Sarah yelled back, her heart pounding fiercely, pushing the darkness away with the sheer force of her love. The shadow shrieked, retreating, as Sarah pulled Emma close. They formed a barrier of warmth against the chill, and for a fleeting moment, the shadows hesitated. But then, just as suddenly, the shadows surged back with a vengeance, fierce and wild, bursting from the floor like a black tide.
Maybe it's time to teach you the truth, the figure hissed, growing larger, darker, consuming as they struggled to hold their ground. Mom! Emma shrieked, her small frame trembling. Sarah's heart sank. Hold on, Emma! She screamed. But the darkness swarmed them, swallowing their cries, leaving only echoes of terror. And in that void, Sarah knew, the shadows were just getting started. The uncertainty loomed like a storm, and as they were pulled deeper into darkness, one question burned in her mind: how to break free when there was nowhere to escape. The shadows enveloped them, a swirling mass of despair that pressed against Sarah's skin, cold and suffocating. Breathing felt like a memory, each inhalation a desperate search for air that didn't exist. She clutched Emma tightly, aware that the very fabric of their reality was being shredded. Mommy, Emma whimpered, her voice like a fragile echo in a vast abyss. Stay close, baby. Please, just stay close, Sarah gasped, her eyes darting, probing the darkness for any sign of escape. The air twisted, and the shadow figure materialized before them, the ghastly grin stretching wider. You think your love can save you? It hissed, fangs glinting in the dim light. Love is a weakness. It binds you to your fate. A shiver sparked through Sarah's core. No, it makes us strong, she shouted, her voice rising against the howl of the shadows. Strong, the figure laughed, a sound like shards of glass cracking in the wind. Let me show you how weak you truly are. In an instant, the darkness swirled, and Sarah felt the ground beneath her slip away. The edges of her vision blurred, and she found herself standing in a room, lit by an overhead bulb that flickered ominously. Chains clanked in the background, and a damp, musty smell assaulted her senses. Emma was gone. Emma, Sarah screamed, searching frantically, her heartbeat drumming in her ears. Emma! Panic swallowed her, and she stepped forward, but every step revealed grotesque images, people chained to the walls, their faces twisted in agony, wisps of dark smoke snaking around their bodies. No, this isn't real. They're illusions to break me. Welcome to the truth, the voice echoed again, mocking, echoing through the chamber. Look around, feel the despair. This is what happens when love fails to protect. Sarah pressed her hands over her ears, trying to shut out the despair, fighting to stay grounded. You won't break me, she shouted, determination rising through her fear. I will find my daughter. And then a soft voice broke through the clamor, warm and gentle. Mommy, help. Emma's voice sent a chill down Sarah's spine, freezing her in place. She turned towards the sound, her heart racing. Emma, she cried out, the name cleaving through the oppressive air. Where are you? In the dark, Mommy, the voice whispered, fading, as if it were being pulled away. No, I'm coming, Sarah cried, desperation gripping her throat. She tore through the twisted landscape, feeling the chains rattle as she stepped on tarnished metal and broken glass, each footfall echoing her frantic heartbeat. Suddenly, she was back in the dark again. The shadows danced around her, laughing, taunting. The absence of light was deafening, wrapping around her throat like a noose. A freezing grip held her breath captive. Do you see now? The shadow figure hissed, materializing in front of her, blocking her path. You cannot hope to find her. You are trapped as they were, lost in the dark. The shadow surged, ready to swallow her whole. But Sarah refused. She steadied herself, recalling every moment she had fought. She had held Emma when fear threatened to engulf them both, had reassured her as she whispered through the night. Your truth is a lie, she yelled, her voice cutting through the oppressive darkness. I won't give in. And suddenly, an ember ignited within her, a surge of warmth spreading through her veins. Emma,
Sarah called again, purpose igniting her resolve. "I'm coming. I will find you." The shadows hesitated, maybe for the first time, their cacophony shifting to a low murmur, uncertainty creeping in. "Your defiance is foolish," the figure hissed, but its tone had shifted, now tinged with something akin to fear. Energy crackled around Sarah, a brilliance born from their bond, and she stepped toward the darkness. With each stride, the shadows shrank back, recoiling from her fierce determination. But would it be enough? As she pressed forward, a chilling thought struck her. How deep did the darkness go? And just like that, she caught a glimpse of movement behind the veil. A small figure, a flash of blonde hair. Emma! The shadows screamed, and Sarah plunged into the void, propelled by the desperate hope of finding her daughter. But as she reached the flickering light, a scream rang out, frenzied and echoing in the darkness. Was it Emma's? The answer hung like an unyielding weight in the air, and Sarah understood. The truth wasn't just waiting to be found. It was something far more sinister. The shadows recoiled, but not enough. Sarah's heart raced as she pushed through the darkness, the flickering light growing ever more distant. The walls felt like they were collapsing in on her, whispering secrets of despair, threats of failure echoing in her mind. She had to reach Emma. There was nothing else to hold on to, nothing else to fight for. "Emma," she cried again, but the darkness consumed her voice, turning it into a hollow sound that bounced off unseen walls. As she pressed forward, explosions of noise surged around her, tormented cries, whispers of warnings, laughter that dripped with malice. She stumbled, feet snagging on what felt like roots of darkness, pulling her into an agonizing embrace. Each tug felt like it was dragging her deeper into a chasm that promised no escape.
She fought against it, clawing at the air, gasping for breath as the tendrils of shadow wrapped tighter. "Let her go! Let go of me!" Sarah screamed, summoning every ounce of courage she could muster. But suddenly, the cacophony stopped. A silence gripped her. The silence shattered as a soft giggle floated through the darkness. "Mommy?" Emma's voice, sweet yet surreal, slithered around her, echoing in the silence like a taunt. "Help me, Mommy." Panic surged through Sarah. It was close now. "Where are you?" she shouted, turning in circles, searching for that glimmer of hope amidst the suffocating shadows. "In the dark, but it's funny here," Emma's voice chimed, childlike and eerily cheerful, almost mocking. It sent ice through Sarah's veins. Was Emma okay? Was this even Emma speaking? "No, I'm coming!" she shouted again, determination burning like a brand within her chest. Small flashes of warmth sparked as her anger fueled her love, reminding her of the laughter, of moments she wanted to share with her daughter. Suddenly, the darkness cracked, a seam appearing in the fabric of shadows. A spike of light shot out, a jagged beam igniting their prison, revealing twisted faces of agony around them, eyes wide with terror. But Sarah couldn't dwell on them. She had to focus. "Emma!" she screamed, her voice piercing through the veil, and she pushed forward, shoving against the wall of shadows. The ground trembled beneath her as the shadows writhed and twisted, desperate to pull her back. But something inside her surged, raw, unrelenting love, and she barreled through the seam, pushing into the light, praying with every fiber of her being that she'd be able to reach her daughter. The world collapsed around her. One moment she was slipping through the darkness, then blinding light engulfed her completely. Sarah shielded her eyes and staggered forward, caught off guard as the light wrapped around her like a warm blanket, washing away the shadows. And there, in the midst of it all, she saw her. Emma stood at the edge of the light, her little arms outstretched, golden curls framing her innocent face. "Mommy!" Her voice was filled with joy. But just as Sarah reached for her, a sudden chill clawed through the air. A rip of darkness surged back to life, snaking around Emma's legs, yanking her back into the shadows. "No!" Sarah yelled, lunging forward, but it was too late. Emma's laughter echoed, melodious yet terrifying, as the darkness swallowed her whole. "Help me, Mommy!" she called, fading into the void. Sarah fell to her knees, the world around her turning dark again, her cries lost in the shadow that returned to envelop her. The figure materialized once more, smirking as shadows twisted through its form like smoke. "Did you think you'd escape? You are but a moth, drawn to a flame."
Infuriated, Sarah gritted her teeth. Clenching her fists, she could feel the fire within her flicker again. But this time, it was tinted with something else. Fear.
What do you want from us? The shadow figure leaned closer, the grin stretching impossibly wide. To remind you that love only leads to suffering, it rasped, the confidence in its tone pulling on the very seams of her conviction. A shiver ran through Sarah. But within that dread, something whispered deep inside her. No, I won't let you take her from me. As she pushed against the fear, a terrifying thought emerged in her mind. Was there a truth she still hadn't uncovered? Would she have to sacrifice everything for her daughter? With a deep breath, she prepared to confront the darkness. What sacrifices lay ahead in her quest for Emma? The shadows danced and closed in tighter, but determination ignited a fierce light in her heart. The journey was just beginning, and she would need to face the darkest frequency of love to illuminate the path forward. Could she survive the sacrifice, or would she lose herself too? The air crackled with tension, heavy around Sarah as she fought back the looming shadows, the oppressive darkness threatening to reclaim everything she held dear. She knelt on the cold ground, rage and grief swirling within her, but a flicker of hope ignited against the suffocating despair. "Emma!" she cried, her voice a battle cry piercing the veil of shadows. It felt ridiculous, shouting into the void, but she knew she couldn't give in. As the darkness twisted around her, the figure emerged again, its malevolence palpable. "You're wasting your breath," it taunted, its laughter chilling and hollow. "Your precious girl is mine. You cannot save her." "No!" Sarah screamed, her heart thundering in her chest. "You don't get to take her." She slowly rose to her feet, feeling each heartbeat reverberate through her. The character of the shadows wavered, uncertain for the first time, and Sarah pressed on, driven by a mother's ferocity. "Love makes us strong, and I won't fail her again." The darkness recoiled slightly, as if her words struck a nerve. "Love is a weakness," it hissed, but Sarah's resolve hardened. "No," she countered, her stance unyielding. "You think you can tear us apart, but we are connected. Her laughter is my strength, her light fuels my fight." With a surge of defiance, Sarah began to step forward, each motion dispelling the shadows that coiled around her, revealing the light within her. The luminous truth of her unwavering love stretched out in sharp contrast to the darkness. "Let me show you what true power is," she yelled, drawing from the core of her being, the love she had for Emma bursting forth like a ripple in water, bright and warm. As she advanced, the shadows twisted and shrieked, caught between the vitality of her resolve and the suffocating grip of despair. "You will pay," they screeched, but Sarah's heart raced with determination. Suddenly, she was enveloped in blinding light, a luminescent shield surrounding her, pushing back the shadows that had once held her captive.
In that moment of clarity, she could feel Emma, her essence unraveling through the air like the gentle tickling of a breeze. "Mommy!" The call echoed softly amidst the chaos, a warmth that reached through the murkiness, wrapping around Sarah like a mother's embrace. Her daughter needed her. "I've got you, Emma. I'm coming." Sarah charged forward, fueled by the bond that thrummed between them. The darkness writhed in protest, but she kept pressing, connecting with the flickers of vibrant courage that burst within her. And moment by moment, the shadows began to retreat, losing their hold, recoiling from the love that burned bright. "Your power is a lie!" the figure screamed as it fell back, shadows dissipating as the light grew stronger. "You can't escape your fate!" But fate was something Sarah refused to accept. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she called out into the depths. "You don't own me, and you don't own Emma!" And with a final surge, she dove into the light, igniting the shadows in a radiant explosion. The room shattered into a million fragments of darkness, a fierce battle roaring to life. She felt it, the light enveloping her, pulling the darkness apart like paper, revealing a figure trapped in the veil. There, entwined in the shadows, was Emma, held tight, her little hands reaching toward the warmth. "Mommy, help me!" Emma's voice, uncertain yet filled with the flicker of hope, ignited the deepest instinct for survival within Sarah. "Please?"
"Hold on, sweetheart," Sarah cried, outstretched arms grasping toward her daughter. As she surged forward, the shadows roared in agony. Ash and smoke swirled, barely holding on, but it didn't matter. She reached for Emma, their hands clasped tightly, a lifeline through the chaos. With one final shout, Sarah pushed back against the darkness. "We are unbreakable!" And in that moment, every ounce of despair bubbled to the surface, crashing against the light. The shadows twisted and wailed, evaporating like mist in the sun. Sarah clung to Emma as love ignited around them, and together they pierced through the darkness, setting flame to the void. As they stumbled into the light, warmth spread around them, calming the frenetic energy of the night. They collapsed, gasping, into a world alive with color. The unspeakable weight lifted, and the air around them felt sweet with freedom. "Mommy?" Emma's voice was soft, as if questioning the reality they found themselves in. "We made it?" "Yes, baby, we're safe," Sarah breathed, brushing her fingers through Emma's hair, smoothing down the strands. Tears flowed unbidden, mingling with laughter and relief, joy washing over them both. They shared a moment, breathless and anchored in the truth, oblivious to the shadows that lingered behind. "Do you want to go home?" Sarah asked, eyes shining with possibilities. "Can we stay out here a bit longer?" Emma requested, looking up at her mother with wide eyes that sparkled with wonder.
"I don't want to go back into the dark." For the first time, Sarah smiled. The shadows of fear finally lifted. "Then let's chase the light together," she responded, their laughter ringing through the night, echoing into the vastness of their survival. As they ventured forth into the moonlight, the town lay behind them, a remnant of a once-haunted nightmare. But what remained ahead was a horizon stretching towards hope, unfettered by darkness, bathed in love. In that moment, they were free. And together, Sarah and Emma stepped forward, ready to face a new dawn. Now that you've reached this heart-pounding conclusion, I want you to do something important. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive, chilling stories like this. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and spread the word of this captivating tale. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the twists and turns of this story. I want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling ride. Your support means everything, and only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions. Let's keep the storytelling alive.